The Lost Gold of La Serpiente Canyon. Chapter 1. The Ghosts of the Past. The sun hung low in the Texas sky, casting long shadows across the dusty plains. A warm breeze whispered through the mesquite trees, carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and the promise of trouble. In the distance, a lone figure rode atop a weathered horse, his silhouette framed against the fiery horizon. It was Jake Callahan, a retired Texas Ranger with more scars on his heart than on his weathered hands. Jake had hung up his spurs years ago, trading the badge for solitude. But the ghosts of his past were relentless, haunting him like a pack of coyotes in the night. The cold case that had haunted him since his youth was a wound that never quite healed. The disappearance of a legendary gold mine said to be hidden deep within La Serpiente Canyon. The stories had been woven into the fabric of Texas folklore, a tantalizing whisper of riches that had lured many to their doom. Chapter 2. A Mysterious Map. One fateful afternoon, while rummaging through the remnants of his old life, Jake stumbled upon a dusty trunk in the attic of his family's homestead. Inside, he found a tattered map, its edges frayed and stained with age. The ink was faded, but the markings were unmistakable: La Serpiente Canyon. His heart raced as he traced the winding path with a calloused finger, memories flooding back like a river bursting its banks. The map was cryptic, filled with symbols and notes that hinted at danger and treasure. X marks the spot, he muttered to himself, a grin creeping across his weathered face. But he knew better than to let excitement cloud his judgment. The canyon was notorious, ruled by a gang of claim jumpers who would shoot a man for a penny and laugh while doing it. Chapter 3. The Call to Adventure. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jake made his decision. He dusted off his Colt Peacemaker, the weight of it familiar and comforting in his hands. It was time to confront the demons of his past and seek the lost gold of La Serpiente Canyon. The next morning, he saddled up and rode out, the rhythmic clopping of hooves a steady beat against the silence of the prairie. The landscape transformed as he approached the canyon, the rolling hills giving way to jagged cliffs and shadowy crevices. The air grew thick with tension, and Jake could feel the eyes of the canyon watching him, as if it were alive and breathing. Chapter 4. The Gang of Claim Jumpers. As he descended into the canyon, the shadows lengthened, and Jake's instincts kicked in. He moved with the stealth of a mountain lion, every sense heightened. It wasn't long before he spotted the campfire of the claim jumpers, a flickering beacon of danger nestled among the rocks. The gang was a ragtag bunch, young guns eager to prove themselves, led by a ruthless man named Buck Morgan. Buck was as slippery as an oil slick and twice as dangerous, with a reputation for violence that made even the bravest men think twice. Jake watched from the shadows, his heart pounding in his chest like a wild stallion. "Listen up, boys." Buck's voice boomed, cutting through the night. "We find that gold, and we'll be kings of this canyon. Ain't no one gonna stop us." Jake's mind raced. He needed a plan, something clever enough to outwit these young fools. He could almost taste the gold, but first, he had to outsmart the gang that stood between him and his prize. Chapter 5. A Game of Wits. Under the cover of darkness, Jake crept closer, his heart thudding like a drum. He overheard the gang discussing the map, each word sharpening his resolve. They believed they had it all figured out, but Jake knew better. The map was a puzzle, and he was determined to solve it before they did. The next day, Jake devised a ruse. He fashioned a crude replica of the map, altering the markings just enough to lead the gang astray. He planted it near their camp, then retreated to the shadows, waiting for them to take the bait. As expected, Buck and his gang fell for the trap, their greed blinding them to the danger. They set off into the canyon, leaving Jake free to pursue the real treasure. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself, the thrill of the chase igniting a fire in his belly. Chapter 6. Into the heart of the canyon. With the gang distracted, Jake pressed on, following the true markings on the map. The canyon twisted and turned, each bend revealing breathtaking views and treacherous cliffs. The sun blazed overhead, but the cool shade of the canyon provided a welcome respite. As he ventured deeper, he began to notice signs of past miners, rusted tools, crumbling shanties, and the remnants of dreams long buried. The weight of history hung heavy in the air, and Jake felt a connection to those who had come before him, driven by the same insatiable hunger for gold. Finally, he reached a narrow passageway, the walls adorned with ancient carvings that seemed to tell a story of their own. He paused, running his fingers over the rough surface, feeling the echoes of the past resonate within him. This was it, the heart of La Serpiente Canyon. Chapter 7, The Treasure Revealed. At the end of the passage, Jake's breath caught in his throat. Before him lay a cavern, its walls glimmering with veins of gold. The sight was breathtaking, a treasure trove that would make even the most hardened outlaw weep with joy. But Jake knew he wasn't alone. From the shadows, Buck and his gang emerged, their eyes wide with greed. Well, if it ain't the old ranger, Buck sneered, his hand resting on the grip of his revolver. Thought you could outsmart us, huh? Jake's mind raced. He was outnumbered, but he wouldn't go down without a fight. This gold belongs to those who seek it honestly, he said, his voice steady. You boys don't have a claim to it. Buck laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. We'll take what we want, Ranger. You're just a relic of the past, and this canyon ain't big enough for the both of us. Chapter 8, The Showdown. The tension in the air crackled like a summer storm, and Jake's instincts kicked in. He drew his Colt Peacemaker, the familiar weight grounding him. You want it? Come and take it, he challenged, his voice low and steady. The gang surged forward, guns drawn, but Jake was faster. He fired a warning shot, the bullet ricocheting off the cavern wall and sending a shower of dust raining down. I'm not looking for trouble, but I won't back down, he warned. A standoff ensued, each man sizing up the other, the air thick with unspoken threats. But Jake had something they didn't experience. He moved with the confidence of a man who had faced death before, and he wasn't about to let a bunch of young guns take what was rightfully his. Chapter 9, The Battle for Gold. In a heartbeat, chaos erupted. Bullets flew, ricocheting off the cavern walls like angry hornets. Jake ducked and rolled, using the terrain to his advantage. He moved like a shadow, each shot calculated and precise, picking off the gang members one by one. But Buck was relentless, a viper striking from the shadows. He charged at Jake, gun blazing, but Jake was ready. With a swift motion, he sidestepped and fired, the bullet finding its mark. Buck crumpled to the ground, his reign of terror finally at an end. As the dust settled, Jake stood alone in the cavern, the weight of the gold pressing down on him. He had won the battle, but the canyon still held its secrets. He knew that the treasure was more than just gold. It was a piece of history, a story waiting to be told. Chapter 10, The Legacy of La Serpiente. With the gang defeated, Jake gathered the gold, feeling the weight of it in his hands. But instead of hoarding it for himself, he made a decision. He would use the treasure to honor the miners who had come before him, to ensure that their stories lived on. As he rode back through the canyon, the sun setting behind him, Jake felt a sense of peace wash over him. The ghosts of his past had finally been laid to rest, and the legend of La Serpiente Canyon would continue to thrive. He returned to his hometown, where he shared the tale of the lost gold and the brave souls who had sought it. The canyon became a place of pilgrimage, a reminder that some treasures are meant to be shared, and that the spirit of the West would never die. Epilogue, A New Dawn. Years later, as the sun rose over the Texas plains, Jake Callahan stood at the edge of La Serpiente Canyon, a smile on his face. The canyon was alive with the laughter of children and the stories of old. The legacy of the lost gold had become a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the harshest of landscapes, there was beauty and adventure to be found. As he tipped his hat to the rising sun, Jake knew that he had finally found his place in the world, a true cowboy, a guardian of the West, and a keeper of its stories. Howdy, partner. Don't be a greenhorn. Hitch your wagon to the western echoes. Cowboy tales unleashed for tales that'll make you holler, yeehaw. Elf faster than a prairie fire, so subscribe and like. Ya hear? We're fixin' to have a rootin' tootin' good time.